Good evening, everybody. Welcome to today's session. And I see a lot of people have joined in, and we can get started. And before we get started, I want to introduce myself and saasguru to this meeting. But before even we get started to that, actually, can you confirm whether I'm audible and everything is fine with the audio?
Yes,
My
yes,
screen
Neha.
is
You're
visible.
audible.
All good?
You're visible.
Okay,
Yes, can start.
cool. Yeah, let's get started. So, okay. So Well, saasguru is platform that will help you get training for your Salesforce certification. They have some tailored assessments that will track your progress on your performance. They have summarized videos and micro modules that will help you gain the knowledge in well-structured manner. They have a gamified approach, which will make your learning fun and you'll, trust me, not get bored with Salesforce training of yours. And with that, they have a powerful community wherein you'll find lots and lots of content to learn about Salesforce. You'll have live classes like this one. You'll get one-on-one mentoring. You'll be able to work on industrial projects, and it will be a good kickstart for your career in Salesforce. And with that, it's a mix of your learning and certification with help of practice materials. It will help you in revisions. The tool or the platform will tell you whether how many times you need to revise a particular topic, whether you're strong at something or weak at something. You'll practice and learn things. This will be your personalized tool, a guru that will help you get to your fast learning journey and help with your Salesforce certification. So here we are, and I guess most of you are part of the community. If not, you can become part of one. And there's a Slack community and there's a LinkedIn community, which you can join, get updates on the live training sessions, any tips and updates on the product. There's webinars that are happening. There's 24/7 live help from our gurus that you can avail free of cost. We'll be soon pinging the links of the Slack community and LinkedIn community. You can join it if not, and get started with your learning journey. I'll give a brief introduction about myself. I am Neha Nagori. I am a Salesforce technical architect. I have around 9 years of experience, and today I will be training you or giving a live class about objects and the relationships. What are the different kind of objects and what sorts of relationships are available. So as an agenda for today's call, we are going to understand what the objects are about in Salesforce, how the object architecture and fields look like. And we're gonna go through a real life scenario, look at how these object architecture and fields relate to each other in the real life scenario. And we're gonna wrap up with the next steps or anything live question and answer that you might have. So let's start with the basic real life example. You are a customer, you want to buy a car. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna decide on a brand of a car. You're going to go to the dealer of that car network, but ask them for a test drive, right? And then you're gonna make a purchase decision, and then you're gonna purchase a car. Now, in this whole process, there's a system involved, which is going to store the details of your test drive. Now, how it's going to happen is you're going to go to a dealership of a particular car company. You register yourself as a customer, like how you register yourself today for the session. You entered your name, your email, and then you got registered, and then you clicked on a link and you got into this Zoom meeting, right? So similar way, all the industry scenarios are working, wherein you are a customer and you have to enter your details. You'll also mention what kind of car you're looking for and which date are you going to book your test drive, correct? Now, all these details that you're entering in a system, in a form like structure on any web browser, right? All those things are going to get stored in some sort of database. Now, here in Salesforce, database is known as the object, right? And every column in the database is known as a field. So the analogy is like the data table is your object and your columns are your fields. And each row in The database table is your record. So each time you make an entry into the table, that is known as a record or a row. So in Salesforce language, what you need to remember primarily is objects, fields, and rows. And like you see in the screenshots presented on the screen here, this is a form wherein I can see, okay, there is a test drive over here, okay, and this is the dealer name, and this is the customer who requested test drive with this dealer on this particular date. There's also a checkbox which will say that, okay, whether this test drive is completed or not. There can be other fields like the owner or who created this record, who modified this record. We'll talk about it later. But for basics, whenever this form is being entered with values, it gets entered as a record in an object with the values in the different fields. All right, so let's move on. To understand what kind of different objects exist in Salesforce. So Salesforce is a product, right? That product will enable you to use the SaaS platform as a CRM in sales industry, in service industry, in health industry, but primarily our today's focus to talk about sales or service industry. All right. So once you take up a license with Salesforce that, hey, I want to use a sales CRM with the help of Salesforce, I want to build my product around it. Salesforce will give you a standard set of database tables already built in. So you don't have to go and build your database tables from scratch. The modeling and everything will be there, and you don't have to do anything. In case there are some customizations with respect to your business process of the organizations that you're working with, you can add the custom object. So by definition, any standard object is an object that are included with Salesforce, and they depend on Salesforce licenses. For example, if I buy a Sales Cloud license, I will get objects such as accounts, leads, opportunity, campaigns, codes, and orders by default. I don't need to create them. I'll just create some fields, layouts, and get done with it. I don't need to put many effort in customizing the application. Similarly with Service Cloud, wherein I have to build a system to provide services to my customers, such as any customer is facing any issues with the product that he bought from us. So he has to go to the portal, raise a case, and then that case will be looked on to some internal users of that particular company. And that will be known as the servicing. That is providing services to you as a customer. That is the Service Cloud license, which is used for. So that will provide you accounts, cases, knowledges, entitlements as standard options. Entitlement is nothing but the SLAs that are that are provided by a company. So for example, a case has to be solved within 3 hours or 3 days or 10 days, depending on the contract that is being signed with the customer. So those are stored in entitlement itself. These objects that we're speaking about, these standard objects, they are represented using a standard object API name like account and contact. So they will have an API name and a label. API name is something that you use in the backend, in the coding, in the flows, etc. And that will be unique to each database table. They won't have any prefix or suffix. They'll be called like account, contact, relation, etc. Whereas on the other side, custom objects will have a representation of a suffix with __c like this. So what are the custom objects? These are the objects that you create to store information that's specific to your company or industry. So if you want to create a database table, that representation is not already available with Salesforce license, you can always create it, right? Like a test drive object to capture the test drive records that we mentioned in the previous slide. You can create it and represent it in Salesforce. Ideally, when you look at a Salesforce form or page layout, as a user, you won't be able to figure out what is a custom object or standard object. So that's a seamless level of experience that Salesforce is going to provide you with respect to the database model. Now, these are some standard object models provided by Salesforce, wherein in Sales Cloud, it all starts with a lead. A lead is going to get created into the system, and lead is nothing but a prospective customer who's interested to do a business with you, right? And lead is going to come into a system with help of some campaigns, any marketing that your company is doing. So the marketing campaigns are being run as part of your sales activity. So campaign and members and leads and everything is part of your first entry level objects on Sales Cloud. Once your lead shows interest, you see that, okay, he is very much interested to buy a product, you're going to make a deal with him. To be able to make a deal with him, you create opportunity records. And to be able to make opportunity records, you have to create an account in the system. So account is nothing but the business person or a business company that you're doing business with. And opportunity is nothing but the deal that you're making with it. So opportunity is going to be sort of object that will consist of records on the basis of which we are going to generate the revenue or forecast our upcoming sales into the organizations. Once the opportunities are closed in basic sales language, once it's closed, you can always place an order into the order object. Now, once an order is placed, it has to be associated with a product, right? Which product has been bought, at which cost it was bought. So everything is being stored in the product and price book data model. So this was all about sales. The moment you purchase a product and sign a contract, sales contract, the sales is done from campaigning to purchasing a product. Now, the moment the product is being sold, it is eligible for a service. You can take example of any product that you buy in today's era, like you buy a mobile from Apple. As and when the sales is complete, your service process gets started. You're eligible for 1-year service, a 2-year service, and you go to service center. If there is an issue in the phone, you want to ask any questions, you can go to Apple website, raise case. And if you're not raising case, you can look at the articles or knowledge articles on the Apple website. It's a basic service cloud scenario. In the service cloud scenario, if you look at it over here, you have cases in the middle. The cases are nothing but your inquiries or issues that you're raising with respect to your product that you've bought. Entitlements I've explained. These are the SLAs. Like for a particular product, you might want to have a response in 2 hours if it's very severe or anything. That will be stored over here. Then there will be milestones. These are going to be visible for your internal users of the organization. Say, for example, Apple. They will see the milestone as of, okay, in 3 hours, I have to finish up this case and give a resolution to the client. Then there are some knowledge articles. In some cases, you might not even need to raise a case because knowledge articles is enough to solve your problem. So you can put details in the knowledge article. That's very important part of your service cloud. And so on. There are several standard objects available. If anything that is not part of this standard object data model, you can always cater to create the custom objects. Now coming to the fields, right? There are different kind of fields, and the fields have different kind of features that are available. Let's look at them individually and see how they fit into real life situations or scenarios and try to map them as much as possible, okay? So in the setup, if you go to create a standard object, it will come with a set of pre-built fields, standard fields, which you can customize some of them and some of them you cannot. The ones that you cannot or ones that are not available, you can always create custom fields on top of it. Each field will have a data type. For example, type currency, text, phone, pick list, anything. So if you look at a form that you're filling for any purpose, like you're going to apply for any job application or something, they'll ask you for your name, your phone number, your email address. Each kind of entity in that form will relate to a separate kind of field. So your name is going to be text. Your phone is going to be of type phone. Your email is going to be of type email. Password type password. Your state of residence is going to be of type of pick list because it's going to be a drop down, right? So each entity in the database table or the object is going to be known as a field, and a field is going to have a type. So every time you create a field, you have to determine its type as to what does it represent, and that is how it's going to be stored in the database, and it's going to behave in the same manner as it should behave on a form that you see it on the website. There are some system audit fields that are special fields in Salesforce that will track the information. Like when you create a record in Salesforce, it will track who created the record, when that person created a record, the timestamp, who modified it, and when was it that who person modified it. So modified by date, modified by ID, created date, and created by ID. These are some special fields that Salesforce will automatically give you, and you don't need to track them explicitly. That's part of the best feature I've seen in the object data model of Salesforce. And you can customize several aspects of standard fields, such as values and pick lists. So if there is any pick list value, suppose closing the opportunity, there are certain fields provided, right? You might have seen that. But if you want to add some more fields to any pick list values or a drop down that you might call it as, you can always do that. But there are certain fields that you cannot modify, like the system audit fields. So you have to always take care while defining the object architecture, which fields you can modify, which fields you cannot. There are certain limitations to these standard fields, like you cannot delete a standard field, right? And any field that is referenced inside your code, you cannot delete that as well. However, if any custom fields you were able to delete, if this was not referenced or anything, you can always restore that custom field from the recycle bin, but only within the 15 days. After the 15 days have elapsed, you cannot restore it. Then there's another feature, field history tracking. So basically, if a status of a particular record is new, and then it's, say for example, you raise a case, it's new, and then it's in progress, and then it's solved. So what if you want to track a particular time or date when that particular status was changed and who changed it? In that case, you can enable a field history tracking. You can select up to 20 fields to track the history related to the list of custom objects and most of the standard objects. So for that particular status, if you're enabling the field history tracking, you'll be able to see when did it got changed from new to in progress, the date, and who changed it, on which record it was changed. That's quite an impressive feature, because you'll be able to know, okay, it's been 5 days, the case was created and then put it into its progress, but nobody came and solved it. So, hey, let's solve it now. If you hadn't had that information, you might not solve that case anytime sooner, right? So that's a very good feature, another impressive one. There are some other customizations that you can do on top of the fields, that you can set up field level security, you can define default values, you can put lookup relation filters, change or add values to standard and custom pick list fields to customize according to your application. Now, let's talk about some features that we discussed in the last slide and see its use cases in real life. The features would be custom object, deletion of fields, field history tracking, system audit fields, and custom fields. All right, so the auto car, the car dealership which we were talking about earlier, wants to track the service history of a car for the customers that have purchased car from them. So they can send reminders to the customers at regular intervals and provide a great customer service. For this requirement, admin will have to create a service history custom object. They will have to create 4 fields, say the last service date, the odometer reading, the work done, the customer name, and also track the history in case someone wants to update the information, right? So in this whole scenario, where are these features coming into picture? Let's look at them one by one. They want to track the service history of a car. So to be able to track the service history of car, first we need to create an object known as service history and associate it with a car, correct? So a custom object will be created known as the service history, on which you're going to create custom fields like last service date, the reading from the car, any type of work done, and the customer's name. Customer's name is going to be a relationship to the customer, and car field is also going to be there, which is going to be relationship to a car. Now, what is the relationship that I'm talking about? I'm going to explain later in coming slides, right? Now, once your custom object is created, custom fields are created, you want to enter data into it, but then at the same time, once you update the data, suppose the odometer rating or last service date, you want to track the history. So you enable the field history tracking feature on that particular field last service date and be able to see the changes on that particular value or the record in the related list of that particular page layout on which the service history is visible. All right. Now, here, if you want to delete work done field or work, customer name, anything like that, we'll be able to delete it because it's a custom field, and also it is not referenced anywhere in the code. But I would not recommend you to delete any fields without talking to your business, okay? So This was the features that we discussed, and let's move on to the next set of features, the relationships. So I was talking about relationships, the car, the customer. Now in service history, why would I need to refer my customer, my car to another object? Why can't I just write the name of the customer there? The reason being, if I just write the customer name, I will not be able to get more information from the customer, right? I just get the name. So here, if you look at this particular page layout in the test drive, I see the customer name over here. I can click on the customer and go to the customer detail record. So here I have the reference of the customer record instead of just the customer name or the customer details, all right? That's why there's a relationship here, and we call it as a lookup relationship. But there's just not one single kind of relationship in Salesforce. There are multiple. There's a lookup relationship, there's a master detail relationship, there's many-to-many relationship, and there's hierarchical relationship, right? Now, it's overwhelming to look at this whole slide and trying to understand what these kind of relationships are and why there are so many kinds of relationships, right? Now let's look at them one by one and try to understand what each of them means, right? First one is lookup relationship, which I explained you. It's loosely coupled relationship to connect object to another one in one-to-many relationship. So it's one test drive object related to one customer right now. But what if I want to have one customer related to many test drives? That's where your lookup relationship comes into picture. It's loosely coupled because I can create a test drive record without a customer. In ideal world, I could not, but it can be possible if it's loosely coupled. And the customer is the parent and the test drive is the child, correct? So when a parent to child relationship is there, it is known as one-to-many relationship. There can be one parent and many children to it, right? And it's loosely coupled, therefore it's known as a lookup relationship. Now, what if this relationship was strongly coupled relationship? Meaning, parent controls the behavior of the children records. If my parent is visible to me, I should be able to see the child as well. If I have access to child, I have implicit access to the parent. If I delete the parent, my child gets deleted, and so on. This kind of relationship with these many implications is known as strongly coupled relationship, and we call it as master detail relationship in Salesforce. There are certain standard master detail relationship available in Salesforce, which I'm going to talk about in next slide. And we'll be able to understand more about the difference between lookup and master detail. This is a many-to-many relationship, right? What if I just don't have one-to-many relationship? No, I have many-to-many, M-to-N relationship. In that scenario, I'll have to create a junction object between the two different objects, and that will be known as a junction relationship or many-to-many relationship. There are hierarchical relationships. It's a unique relationship that can only be used on the user object and is designed to create a hierarchy of users. A simplest of example would be you're reporting to your manager. So it's a hierarchical relationship, right? Now let's look at the differences in master detail and lookup relationship, because I've seen a lot of candidates trying to understand the difference between the two in their initial phases, and it's really important to understand both. So by definition, I've already told you, it's a tightly coupled and a loosely coupled relationship, right? Whenever you create a child records in master detail relationship, it is very important to have a master associated to it. If you don't associate a master with a child, you won't be able to create the record. Whereas in case of lookup, a child record can exist without a master. In case of sharing, the sharing rules are inherited from master to the detail record. Whereas in case of lookup, it's not inherited from master to the detail record. In terms of limits, the number of master detail relationships that can be used is limited to per object, whereas for lookup, it can be 40. Cascade delete in case of master detail relationship, if I delete a parent, like I mentioned, or a master, the child is going to get deleted by itself. But in case of lookup, that's not possible by default, but you can make it possible with help of customization. There's a roll-up summary available in master detail relationship. For example, you're making a sale for multiple products in your company on opportunity, and you're adding opportunity products or opportunity line items. You can always roll up the amount of money for that the products are being sold on the opportunity record. That way you can roll up the total amount. For each line item, you'll mention that this is my sales price, say $10, $10, 5 times. It totals up to $50 and it will be visible on the opportunity records. By default, you don't have to code out anything. That's known as the roll-up summary. It's a kind of field that you create on your object. In case of lookups, it's not supported by default. You have to code it out, create flows around it or processes around it to do it. But by default, it's not supported and it will not be visible, like how it does in the master detail relationship. Now, let's move on to how that reflects in a real life scenario, how a master detail relationship or lookup relationship or a junction object relationship will be visible in a real life situation. ABC Recruitment is wanting to track all the candidates' applications for different roles. They also want to include a count on their jobs as to how many applications they have received. As a Salesforce administrator, how would you make this achieve? Now, there's a recruitment agency. There are candidate applications. So by now, you might all have understood how this recruitment scenario works, right? There is a candidate, he will fill up an application form, right? And he will apply for a job, right? But as a candidate, you can apply for multiple roles, right? You can apply for Salesforce admin, you can apply for Salesforce consultant, you can apply for Salesforce developer as well, right? 3 roles. Now there are 3 jobs, 3 roles, and there is multiple candidates. One candidate can apply to multiple roles and a single role can have multiple candidates associated to it. This kind of relation is neither one-on-one or 1:n or 1-to-many. It is many-to-many, right? That's how your junction objects will come into picture. Here, the job or role will be one object. Your candidate's applications will be another one, whereas your candidate to the role is going to be another object, which is the junction object. It will consist of a relationship between the role, the candidate, and any information about the application to which the candidate has applied to. So this is known as many-to-many relationship. Now, the relationship between one junction object and one job object is going to be 1-to-many, and vice versa with the other object. But overall, it's a M:2N relationship. Now, let's look at the different kind of fields that can be available. Certainly, there are formula fields and roll-up summary fields. Now, what are these fields and where we can use them is what we're gonna look into this particular slide. So formula fields in Salesforce are the fields that are calculated each time the field is accessed. So it's not something that is statically put inside the database. It's not existing. Only when you try to access it, like try to access it on your page layout when you load the record, or try to put in a query, or try to use it in a flow, right? Only that's when the formula is calculated. Now, how it's calculated is the formula field. When you define it, you try to put a, say, sum of A plus B. You try to put a criteria over there. Now that criteria will be evaluated when you're trying to access it, and you get the value of it. So it's the data which is dynamically getting updated when the variables are changed. There are certain limitations around it, like formula fields cannot exist 3,900 characters in the formula. Like the criteria that you're defining should not be 3,900 characters or more than that. And the resultant value, it cannot exceed 1,300 characters. So any value that is the result of that formula should not exceed the 1,300 characters. You cannot use long text area, encrypted fields or description fields in the formulas, because of course they will exceed the 1,300 character limit, right? And the value that you are trying to calculate out of formula cannot depend on another formula that calculates it, because that will or might become a recursive one. It has to be deterministic, right? Moving on to the roll-up fields. Roll-up summary fields are really very similar to formulas. They also get calculated, but they will calculate the values from a related record. Like I said, an opportunity will calculate its value from opportunity product. You can create a roll-up summary field on a master record in a master detail relationship, whereas it will get the values from the detail record. So when you create a customer or custom roll-up summary field, you will determine whether I want a sum or an average or just some mod or kind of different formulas that are available. You'll determine that, and from which fields from the detailed part of the record you'll need that, and it will get calculated and get displayed on the master record. You can create roll-up summary fields on your custom objects, right? Standard objects, which are the masters, the standard object should be on the master side, not on the children side. Opportunities using the values of opportunity products, I already mentioned that, and accounts using the values of related opportunities. Account can act as a master of opportunities, a special kind of relationship, and campaigns and campaign member status values. They will also act as a campaign. Single campaign will be a master of a campaign member, not a campaign object record as master detail relationship with campaign member is not possible. But these are certain specifics that you can just try to go to help.salesforce.com onto a specific object level page, the standard object page, and see the specifics whether how a master detail relationship is defined between campaign and campaign member. Now, like I was mentioning in the previous slide, there are different roll-up summary types, right? It can be a count. You can count the number of records and the detail, right? You can get the minimum value out of 5 counts, right? What is the minimum discount? What is the minimum sales price? Likewise, you can get a maximum value, right? That will be specified field across all the records through the master detail relationship. And you can also get the sum. And there are some key formula field functions that you can use in a formula field. Like I was saying that when you define a formula field, you can specify certain criteria, right? A plus B. If you mention A plus B, then it will get calculated at the time when you're accessing that field. There are certain math operators that you can use, plus, minus, multiply, divide. So some logical operators, greater than, less than, text operators, and or there's some date time functions, like you want to mention like what year it was built in, or what year it was created in -3, right? So 3 years less than it was created in, like that. So you can just do year, this particular year -3. It will give you 3 years less value than the year that was mentioned on a specific date. Then logical functions, and if, case, not. So if there are some logical criteria that you need to define. Similarly, there are some math functions like minimum, maximum, lookup functions, regular expressions, some images you want to show, some hyperlink you want to show, contain, trim, and things like that. Basic functions that you are able to perform on Excel sheet are also available on your formula field. I'm not saying all of the functions are available. This VLOOKUP is a bit different from the VLOOKUP that is present on the Excel. You can go and check that out, right? It's available on the validation rules as well, but go to the help.salesforce.com, look into the details, try to go on to your developer org, do an hands-on. If in case you're not able to understand, you can always ping me on Slack and ask these questions. But this is pretty straightforward, easy to understand, because these are just operators and functions that we use in our day-to-day life, and we can use it in Salesforce without coding it out with any special language. These are just there, you just put them and done, right? That's quite impressive, right? Now, there are simple formulas. There are cross-object formulas. What are cross-object formulas? Is a formula that will span amongst two related objects and reference the merge fields on those objects, right? And it can also reference the merge fields from parent object if an object is on the detail side of the master detail relationship. It also works with a lookup relationship. So you just have to mention on a detail object. You can take details from the master and show it on the detail side. Again, impressive. The only thing that you can consider over here is that you can reference fields from the objects that are up to 10 relationships away. The cross-object formula is available anywhere. Formulas are used except when creating default values. So there is a feature wherein when you create a field, you can specify what will be their default value. So for example, you're entering a product, and product quantities also have to be defined. By default, you can enter 10 as a default quantity, correct? But there you cannot specify a formula. You just have to enter a number. So that is known as the default value. You can always explore that once you try to create a new field in Salesforce. Now, there are some business requirements that you can relate right now and just try to map it with the formulas that we discussed in the previous slides. Okay, so the average sales price, like the average sale amount of each car model, correct? So when you're entering the car model, when you're trying to make a deal out of it, right? Then you can get the average sale amount from all the other deals that you mail and show it to the customer. Similarly, average resale price, average lease length, right? Total sales per brand, which can show you the total number of sales, total number of key sales, total number of overall sales. You can just go to Salesforce or try to create a master detail relationship or a lookup relationship and create the formulas. Put some criteria with respect to mathematical operators or mathematical functions and try to run that over a record. It will get calculated dynamically while you're trying to access the record, and you'll see the numbers according to the formula criteria that was done. That's the best exercise that you can do to check out how the formulas and roll-up fields are working. Another product showcase that we can do here is that the car scenario that we were looking at, they want to capture some additional data on customers to be able to provide more personalized service and reward for those customers that have sent their or use their services frequently, right? And the sales manager will like to set the status of the customer as premium if a customer has used the services more than 3 times. And if a customer has status of premium, they receive a 10% discount on their service. Now here, think of your customer data as a customer record, right? And when they're taking the services, right, say a case is getting created, you have a lookup to your customer, correct? What if a customer has a pick list value of premium? Then whenever a service is getting availed or any order or sales that is being procured for the customer, there's a discount field that calculates the discount. And there is some if mathematical operator over there. If premium discount equal to 10%, basic formula, right? Try that on and see if that discount will work while trying to give services or products to the customer. Right, so your mathematical operators, your roll-ups, your cross-object formulas, every other features that we discussed in the previous slides will come up over here, right? So, sorry. So as next steps, this is all about what kind of objects are available in Salesforce, like basic objects. There are different kind of objects available as well. We call them external objects, but at this level, I think it's good enough to know standard and custom objects. As in when we advance, we can know about the different kind of relationships and different objects as well. But you make sure to log into your saasguru application and complete the necessary learnings with respect to creation of objects and understand the relationships, formula fields, etc. If you have any questions with respect to the session, you can always connect with me on Slack channel. You can also join Ask for Help Slack channel in the saasguru portal and ask for questions for 24/7 live support. We also have some trailhead links that are necessary for these kinds of learnings, and you don't or never forget about them. Do those trailhead learnings, complete those badges, do the hands-on, and then you'll understand whatever I told you about in today's session will make sense to you. And even if it doesn't, our gurus are here to help you, right? Like I said, the DevOps, they are always free to use. So you'll have some trailhead playgrounds along with your trailhead. You can just log into them, play around. If you need help with that, just ask for help and we'll be there. Now, once you register to saasguru, there is a special discount code for the learnings that is known as Neha20. I'll ping here in the chat. You can avail 20% discount on all the learnings and just enter this coupon code and get that discount while you're registering for them. And do complete those trainings to excel further in your Salesforce learning journey. All right, everybody, this is all for today's session.